Revealed: 7 hidden foods hurting your legs. Discover the amazing changes for senior health. Arthur sat behind the workbench in his garage repair shop, the walls echoing a familiar silence that felt all too heavy. Tools lay scattered around him, remnants of projects abandoned mid-sentence, much like conversations he once had. A cracked window let in the sunlight, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, yet could not dispel the lurking shadow of loneliness. The laughter of his late wife, Betty, seemed to linger in the corners, haunting him like a distant melody. He used to charm customers with stories of old, but now the only story left was his quiet struggle with loneliness. Just as despair began to tighten its grip, his granddaughter, Ellie, burst through the door, radiating an infectious energy. Her bright-eyed determination was like a splash of color in his gray world. "Grandpa, you won't believe what I found out," she exclaimed, holding up a brochure. "There are 7 hidden foods that hurt your legs. We need to talk about your diet." Her enthusiasm was like a gentle nudge that sent a soft ripple through Arthur's heart. But beneath the warmth of her smile brewed a storm of emotions within him. As she laid out the facts, sugars and salts, acidity and inflammation, he felt his pride rise up like a shield. "I've managed just fine without help," he grumbled, surprising himself with the sharpness of his tone. He wasn't ready to acknowledge that maybe he needed care, even if it was just in the form of the meals he ate. Days passed after that fateful afternoon, and Arthur found himself grappling with growing discomfort. Simple tasks turned into grand challenges as arthritis clawed at his hands, making even the lightest of jobs feel like an uphill battle. Then came the health scare that rocked him to the core, a dizzy spell that almost landed him on the ground. Fear speared through him. This could mean a loss of independence, a loss of everything he'd built. The very thought of surrendering control terrified him. That it was Ellie who sensed it all. This time, she rallied the community. Neighbors came together, hearts open, seeking to show Arthur that leaning on loved ones wasn't a weakness, but a powerful act of courage. They organized a town hall meeting, a gathering to lift him up, yet all he felt was the weight of apprehension. The familiar faces, usually a source of comfort, now stared back at him filled with unspoken empathy and concern. As the day arrived, Arthur stood at the podium, anxiety bubbling within him. The room was packed, waiting, willing to support. He could feel the communal warmth like a fuzzy blanket, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of hope danced in his chest. Was this what it felt like to be cared for? Yet, shadows still loomed. He scanned the crowd, seeing the faces twisted with encouragement, but also the silent judgment he feared. Old beliefs about masculinity and vulnerability wrestled within him, creating a storm that left him breathless. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The air was thick with anticipation. Arthur stood before his community, the moment heavy with unvoiced fears and unyielding expectations. Would he finally break through the walls he had so carefully built? Would he let love in, or allow pride to chain him once more? Hearts pounded, breaths held in the silence, as Arthur prepared to speak. Would he reach out for the hand being offered, or turn back to the shadows? The question hovered in the air, leaving everyone, including Arthur, waiting for his answer. Arthur stood there, eyes darting across the crowd of familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and a sprinkling of old classmates from high school. Each expression carried a thread of concern that intertwined with familiarity, a tapestry woven with shared memories and long-held sentiments. Suddenly, the room felt like it was closing in, and the moments seemed to stretch endlessly, the spotlight unbearable on him. He clenched his fists around the edges of the podium, his palms sweating against the cool wood. His breath hitched, and for a second, all he could hear was the relentless ticking of the wall clock, mocking him with every second that ticked by. Memories of yesterday flooded back, the days spent in the workshop laughing with Betty, the simple pleasure of creating something with his hands. He felt their absence so sharply now. Taking a deep breath, Arthur's mind raced. What if he revealed his vulnerability, his fears, the doubts that crept into his mind? Would they see him as weak? The very thought pricked at his pride like a thorn. But then he caught Ellie's eye, a bright spark in the crowd, her gaze unwavering and full of encouragement. Maybe this wasn't tea about him anymore. Maybe this was for Ellie and everyone who had come to show their support. Hello everyone. His voice cracked slightly, a vulnerability seeping through. He cleared his throat, trying to rid himself of the nerves crawling up his spine. I'm not great with public speaking, but I'm here because of you all. Ellie beamed, the warmth of her smile wrapping around him like a safety net. A soft murmur moved through the audience, a wave of collective encouragement. I guess I've been struggling. It's hard to admit, with my health, and, well, I feel like things are slipping away from me. And it terrifies me, he continued, the admission tasting foreign on his tongue, but somehow freeing. This past week I've been dealing with some pain, and he paused, fighting back a wave of emotion. I almost fell more than once. Gasps rippled through the room. He looked down, feeling the heat rush to his cheeks. But I know I need to face this, whatever it is, and take the steps I can. I thank you all for being here. It means more than I can say. And there it was, the hand he had been offered. Arthur felt the weight of the burden lift slightly. The applause began softly, like the first drops of rain on parched earth, but quickly swelled into a symphony of support that filled the garage. Each clap resonated in his chest, lightening the heavy atmosphere that had settled around him. Yet, as the applause faded, dread clawed its way back into his mind. What would he do next? A friend, Jim, called out from the back. "You're not alone, Arthur. We're with you." That simple statement struck a chord deep within. He wasn't alone. But what now? Could he really embrace the help he so desperately needed? The future loomed, uncertain, and each option felt like a great leap of faith he hadn't prepared for. With tentative hope threading through his heart, Arthur stepped back from the podium and looked toward Ellie, who was practically bouncing with joy. She had gathered the community for him, and suddenly he wanted nothing more than to fight for their shared future together. Was he truly ready to change his ways and let them in? The journey ahead felt daunting, but as he stepped down, he didn't want to lose this fragile thread of connection any longer. "See you at the next meeting?" Arthur whispered to Ellie, the thought lingering in the air as he braced himself for the answers he still had to find. And just like that, with the light of hope shining through the cracks of his vulnerability, Arthur took his first step toward an uncertain future, leaving everyone wondering, could this be the beginning of something new? As the last echoes of applause faded into the background, Arthur felt a strange mixture of relief and anxiety wash over him. He stepped off the podium, the wood still warm from where he had gripped it, as if the heat of those shared moments lingered on his skin. Now, surrounded by friendly faces, he was all too aware of their expectant gazes lingering on him, searching for the next step he would take. With Ellie close by, her energy like a wellspring, Arthur could feel the momentum building. "You did amazing, Arthur." She beamed, her eyes sparkling with pride. For a brief moment, he felt as if he might float. But then doubt crept back in like an unwelcome shadow. How could he sustain this? How could he let them truly see him? The messy, flawed reality behind the smile. "Thanks, Ellie," he said, forcing a smile, but inside, the questions churned relentlessly. What would he say at the meeting? Would he really be able to share deeper fears? The pain still lingered, a constant reminder that this journey was not just about an audience. It was about something much harder: vulnerability, the buzz of conversation around them. Arthur caught snippets of others sharing their stories, his friends revealing battles fought and won. Each story seemed to build a bridge between himself and them. This sense of community was electric, a surge of shared strength. Yet he remained tethered by fear as he replayed his words inside his head. What if they didn't want to hear more? What if they judged his moments of weakness? Hey, we're all here for you, right? Jim approached, slapping Arthur lightly on the back. The simple camaraderie sent warmth through him. We want to help. Whatever you need. Breath catching in his throat, Arthur nodded, the encouragement settling deeper within him. This was what he needed, surrounding him like a shield. But still, he felt like he was standing on the edge of a precipice. What lies beyond this newfound acceptance? As conversations flowed around him, he finally spotted Betty's old workshop in his mind, flooded with laughter and creativity, now a distant memory. He remembered the many hours they had spent together, working side by side, their hands stained with paint and glue. They had shared dreams and aspirations. The workshop had been a sanctuary. It was there that he had felt most alive. Arthur? Ellie's voice pulled him from daydreams of the past. You're zoning out. What's going on in that head of yours? He blinked, taking a moment before responding. Just thinking about the next steps. I just don't want to disappoint anyone. It was the truth, and it felt a little freeing to admit it. Arthur, you want to disappoint us. You're already fighting. Just being honest is powerful. Her words settled within him, warm like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Maybe he could let his guard down even a little more. The thought was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. I guess I just need to figure out what that means for me, like moving forward, he replied, the weight of the future promising yet daunting. Ellie nodded, her confidence unwavering. You'll find your way. We're all out here together. Here, S.A. thought, what if you come to the next meeting prepared to share something personal? People would love to hear your journey. Arthur took a deep breath, allowing the idea to take root. Maybe sharing his truth at the meeting was the next step he needed. And with each passing second, the suggestion became more tempting, a gentle push into uncharted waters. Suddenly, he spotted a young child running toward the garage, his laughter ringing out like a bell. The innocence and joy radiating from him seemed to illuminate the entire space. A perfect metaphor for what Arthur needed: childlike courage to embrace every moment. Could he channel that uninhibited spirit? Could he open his heart to not just loneliness and pain, but to community and love? With these thoughts swirling, Arthur felt a shift within himself. The room, once caving in with uncertainty, now felt expansive, filled with possibilities. He wasn't simply stepping into a meeting. He was stepping into a new chapter of his life. And as the energy buzzed around him, lifting him, he couldn't help but wonder, what would the next meeting reveal about himself and the connections he longed to solidify? As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the gathering, Arthur felt an unexpected rush of exhilaration course through him. The air was filled with laughter and light-hearted banter. Friends exchanged stories, and the atmosphere crackled with an undeniable sense of camaraderie. But as powerful as that energy was, it wasn't enough to quiet the uncertainty lurking in the back of his mind. He glanced at Ellie, who was animatedly chatting with Jim, their laughter bubbling up like a fine champagne. Arthur's heart swelled with desire to join them more fully, to dive deeper into the currents of joy swirling around him. Yet, every ounce of excitement was tempered by the weight of his own apprehension. What if he failed to measure up? What if his truth felt too raw or too broken for this moment? Taking a step back, he found himself gravitating toward a quieter corner of the yard, where the sound of the gathering faded into gentle whispers. He closed his eyes and visualized that old workshop again, the place where creativity flowed as freely as the paint on the walls. The memories flooded back, late nights filled with laughter, dreams shared over clinking coffee mugs, plans painted in bright colors against the dull canvas of reality. In that workshop, he was assured, seen, and most importantly, accepted. Just be honest, Ellie's voice lingered, an echo of encouragement. Was it really that easy? Could he open the door to his heart without fear of judgment? He could see himself standing in front of that group, words trembling on his lips. He would speak of the loneliness he felt after Betty's passing, how it enveloped him like a heavy blanket. He would talk about small victories, the days he found joy in unexpected places, The moments of clarity that reminded him he was not just a collection of his struggles. But then the workshop began to blur, and doubt crept back in. What if they don't understand? He whispered to the cool, evening air. What if they just see a sad story and not the person behind it? Just then, the laughter of children pierced through his thoughts, drawing him back to the present. Two little ones ran past him, their carefree shouts filling the air. He watched them for a moment, the sheer bliss on their faces, the way they chased the shadows of the evening. In their laughter lay the essence of what he longed to embrace again. That childlike curiosity and courage to be vulnerable without the burden of expectations. The thought surprised him. By sharing his story, he wasn't just revealing a weakness. He was offering a part of himself that could possibly connect him to others. His heart began to race, not from fear, but excitement. Perhaps vulnerability wasn't a weakness at all, but a way to foster true connections. How do I even start? He pondered, a flicker of hope igniting within him. Suddenly, Ellie reappeared, her smile bright against the fading sun. Hey, I was looking for you. Are you ready for the next meeting? Arthur met her gaze, studying the open warmth in her expression. In that moment, he realized he didn't have to have all the answers right now. All he had to do was take that next step, even if it was small. Maybe I will share, I want to try, he said, the words slipping out before he could second-guess himself. Ellie beamed, and he felt the stirrings of confidence surround him like a warm hug. That's the spirit. As they joined the others, a feeling of possibility washed over Arthur. He was ready to step into vulnerability, to let his narrative interweave with those around him. But beneath his newfound determination, a flutter of doubt still remained. What if it all came crashing down? With that question lingering, Arthur couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was just beginning, filled with unknowns that could lead him to deeper truths, both within himself and among his friends. And as he looked around the vibrant gathering, he couldn't help but wonder what revelations awaited him in the meeting ahead, and could he truly embrace the connections he so desperately sought? Arthur stepped back into the lively crowd, his heart racing with anticipation and uncertainty twirling within him. Laughter echoed all around, and the warmth of familiar faces ignited a small flame of courage in his chest. But with each face he recognized, there loomed a new wave of doubt, pushing against the warmth a battle of hope versus fear, so tangible he could almost reach out and touch it. He focused on Ellie. She was chatting with Jim, her animated gestures punctuating her words. Arthur could feel the pull of wanting to join in, yet something held him back. That ache in his chest resurfaced, whispering reminders of previous pains, moments where he had tried to let others in and had faced rejection. Still, he found strength in the support Ellie offered. It pushed him forward one cautious step at a time. Arthur, come over here. Jim waved him over, his enthusiasm infectious. We were just talking about that hiking trip we took last summer. You have to share your version of events. Arthur took a deep breath. He could feel the world narrowing to just Jim and Ellie, their inviting smiles urging him to share a piece of himself. The hiking trip, he remembered it like a vivid dream. Everyone's laughter ringing through the trees, the thrilling sense of adventure, and how he had felt alive without the weight of loss pressing down on him. I'll share, Arthur murmured, almost as if convincing himself more than anyone else. Great. Come on. Ellie cheered, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. As he stepped into the circle of friends, he realized this was the first time in a long while he felt the spark of the man he once was. He began to recount the hike, embellishing the stories with colorful details, how he slipped on a muddy slope, and everyone erupted into laughter, or the moment they reached the summit and felt the wind whip through their hair like the thrill of freedom. The scene unfolded effortlessly, and for the first time in weeks, Arthur didn't feel the shadows creeping beneath his skin. He was in the moment, free from the chains of solitude. The group hung on his every word, their laughter blending, lifting him higher. But just as he began to sink deeper into this warm cocoon, a familiar pain tugged at his heart. And then, when I got back home, I felt the emptiness settle in again. He continued, vulnerability creeping in, like a storm cloud rolling in to spoil a sunny day. Some days I feel the joy slip away, and it makes me think about Betty. I don't want to burden you guys with that, but it's a part of who I am now. The chatter around him muted for a brief moment, and he could see understanding reflected in his friend's eyes, not pity, but connection, their own stories echoing in his words. Ellie stepped closer, her voice gentle. "Arthur, sharing this brings us together. You're not alone in this. We've all faced our own storms, you know?" He could feel a shift, the air thick with a shared understanding that cradled his heart. As he continued to speak, Arthur shared tales that traced the arc of his pain, but also revealed the light. He told them about how he learned to find joy in small, everyday moments, things like the laughter of children playing in the park or the smell of fresh coffee brewing in the morning. Each shared incident was met with nods and murmurs of agreement, creating a bridge between their lives. When he finally finished, the energy in the circle was palpable. A warmth spread through him, not just from having spoken his truth, but from the invitation it created for others to share their own experiences. Could it be true? Would they embrace the real him, both light and shadow? He looked around cautiously, searching for signs of judgment, but was met only with open hearts, ready to receive and respond. Next to him, Jim took a deep breath, his eyes glistening. "I felt my own struggles, too. Like when I lost my dad." The air shifted again, a ripple of honesty spreading across the group. The path was widening, revealing hidden layers of their connections. Arthur's heart raced, filled with possibilities. As others began to share, each story a thread weaving them closer, he felt the first weight of his solitude begin to lift. But beneath that warmth, a question flickered in his mind. Was this the beginning of healing, or simply a moment that would soon fade? With that uncertainty lingering, Arthur couldn't help but wonder what other truths awaited him, lurking just beneath the surface of their shared stories, and, most importantly, what connections he could still forge in the depths of their hearts. The circle buzzed with a newfound energy, each shared experience wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Arthur felt the weight on his heart easing. Jim had opened a door, and one by one, they stepped through, sharing stories filled with pain, love, and the journey of being human. Mary chimed in next, her voice soft but steady. "I feel you, Arthur. After my divorce, every joyful moment felt like it came with a warning label, like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop." Nods filled the space. Each face reflected understanding, a universal recognition of their individual and shared struggles, knitting them closer together. Arthur's spirit soared with every word spoken. It was as if they were weaving a tapestry, a collective narrative of survival and resilience. Laughter punctuated the moments, but so did silence, where eyes met with knowing glances. As the sky deepened to a soft indigo, the golden lights strung above flickered into life, casting a warm glow over their gathering. It felt almost magical, the kind of magic that only happens when hearts align and barriers fall. He leaned in, eager to absorb the stories that flowed like a stream, a cleansing force washing away isolation. Shannon, her smile brightening the room, recounted a time when she lost her job. "I thought that was the end of my world," she said, laughing lightly, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. "It pushed me to find what I truly love." Her words struck a chord. Arthur wondered if losing Betty had gifted him the same opportunity to discover depths he hadn't yet explored. Jim turned to Arthur. "Seems like we're all hurting in one way or another. It's moments like these that remind me how important it is to lean on each other." Arthur's chest tightened with warmth. Leaning on each other. What a beautiful thought. The idea of being a pillar and seeking support from the people around him felt less daunting now. The group continued sharing, stories intertwining like vines, each person revealing a little more of themselves. As Arthur listened, he spotted Ellie watching him keenly, her eyes reflecting genuine warmth and support. "Let us face it, life can knock you down," she said, her voice steady. "But it's how we get back up that matters. And right now, I feel like we're standing a little taller together." Chuckles and murmurs of agreement filled the air. With every voice, they dissolved barriers that had once felt insurmountable. They spoke not just to share their burdens, but for the laughter, the lightness, and the undeniable joy of connection. But amidst the joy, a sudden pang of reality hit Arthur as he glimpsed the clock on the wall. Time had slipped away, and panic washed over him. What if this feeling of belonging was just transient? What if tomorrow arrived gray and daunting, throwing him back into his solitude? Wait, he interjected, his heart racing. Maybe we could make this a regular thing? Meet up, share stories, not just when we feel low, but just together? The response was overwhelmingly positive. Shouts of yes, and I'm in, echoed through the circle, filling Arthur with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in ages. As they finalized plans, the shadows of doubt still lingered, but there was strength stirring within him. Was this the start of something beautiful? As he made his way home that night, he felt lighter. The burden he'd carried seemed less prominent, like it was receding with the tide. But the questions gnawed at him. What if fear crept back in? Tomorrow loomed ahead, a blank slate. What challenges or connections awaited him? And yet, under that sky shimmering with stars, something whispered deep within him. Maybe, just maybe, healing didn't have to be a solitary journey. The following day, Arthur woke with the sun peeking through his window. It cast gentle rays across his room, painting everything in a soft, hopeful light. For the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of optimism. He jumped out of bed, quick to shake off the remnants of loneliness that had clung to him for too long. As he prepared his breakfast, Arthur thought about the plans for the group meeting. Excitement bubbled in his chest. It was just a chance to share stories, he realized. It was a chance to cultivate a new version of himself. He pictured the faces of those who had opened their hearts, the laughs shared, and the comfort wrapped around him like a warm hug. He walked to work with a lighter step, greeting neighbors he had often ignored before. Each smile he met felt like a jolt of electricity. Maybe that sense of community wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. The workday passed in a blur. He found himself distracted, thoughts drifting constantly back to the gathering. Each task felt smaller, less significant than the connections waiting to be made later that evening. Finally, as the clock ticked toward 5, he grabbed his things and headed out. When he arrived at the community center, he was surprised to see Jim already setting up. Jim waved energetically. "Hey, Arthur, you beat everyone here." "I guess I'm just excited," Arthur replied, grinning. As chairs were arranged in a circle, he felt a familiar flutter of nerves mixed with enthusiasm. Each member began to trickle in, greeted by smiles and warm hellos, like old friends reuniting rather than acquaintances meeting for the second time. Ellie arrived next, her laughter ringing out as she bumped fists with Jim. She turned to Arthur, her eyes bright. "Hey, you ready to dive deeper tonight?" "I guess so," he chuckled, hoping to mask his anxiety. What had he committed to? What if the honesty of sharing felt too vulnerable, too raw? As the group assembled, Arthur noticed a shift in the energy. It was palpable, electric, as if everyone was breathing in sync. One by one, stories began to flow, each tale a thread in their growing tapestry. Shannon shared her latest progress with her job hunt. Mary spoke about reclaiming joy in her life by pursuing art again. Jim was right about one thing: there was strength in vulnerability. It was the way they all carried each other's burdens, a silent promise they'd lift one another when the weight became overwhelming. Then it was Arthur's turn. Instinctively, he felt the pull of his heart, the tenderness of the moment urging him to share. "I lost someone close to me, my wife. I thought it would break me, but I think it's brought me here today to seek connection rather than isolation," he said, surprised at how steady his voice remained. The group listened intently, an understanding washing over them. As he spoke, a wave of relief flooded Arthur's spirit. He could feel the cracks in his heart slowly mending. But then, as he finished, a voice rose from the back. "What if we go further than just sharing?" It was Ellie, her eyes gleaming with intensity. "What if we support each other through challenges? Like really dig deep and help each other grow?" The room buzzed with excitement. The suggestions rolled in, ideas of workshops, group outings, and even volunteering together. Arthur found himself filled with a sense of purpose, a shared vision taking root among them. But there was still that flickering doubt, the fear of potential vulnerability standing at the forefront of his mind. As discussions continued, he wondered what lay beyond the safety of stories. Would they really be willing to navigate each other's struggles and celebrate each other's victories? With hope and fear intertwining, the evening surged forward, ready to blossom into something wholly unexpected. The energy in the room settled into a rhythm, a collective heartbeat that echoed each shared story. Arthur watched as ideas sparked like little fireflies, illuminating faces, creating a web of hope and determination. He could feel that same electricity from earlier. It was contagious, lifting spirits as they brainstormed. Jim leaned over to Arthur, whispering, I never thought it would feel like this. It's like we're all figuring out how to be stronger together, right? There was a sincerity in Jim's voice, a weightiness that made Arthur nod. This was tea, just talk. It felt like the start of something profound. As the night progressed, a few more volunteers emerged. Mary suggested organizing a community cleanup, igniting laughter as she detailed how she would convince her cat, Whiskers, to join. In light-hearted banter, even Arthur felt liberated, shedding some layers of hesitance he didn't know he had put on since losing Sarah. Then it was Ellie again, her enthusiasm infectious. Let us find something to challenge ourselves. A hike, maybe? We can support each other through those tough trails. An adventure. Arthur's heart raced at the mere thought. He hadn't hiked since Sarah had encouraged him to conquer that mountain last summer. He remembered the joy in their laughter as they reached the top, the view sprawling before them like a promise of endless possibility. Count me in, Arthur blurted out, surprising himself. The words felt like liberation, a commitment to step outside of his comfort zone, to embrace something new with these people who were quickly becoming more than just strangers. As the conversation turned to logistics and hiking plans, Arthur's mind wandered again. What did moving forward really mean? Was he ready to confront his fears? Maybe this was the first step in healing, embracing discomfort instead of shying away from it. As the meeting drew to a close, Jim declared, "We've got some solid plans, folks. Let us make this a monthly thing. Keep building this community." Cheers erupted, and everyone nodded eagerly, excitement hanging palpably in the air. Walking home, Arthur reflected on the night. It was more than stories shared. It was a commitment to show up, to engage not just with each other's joys, but also their challenges. For the first time in a long while, he felt anchored. It wasn't a guarantee of easy days ahead, but it was a start in opening toward potential, toward a life richer than the shadows that had followed him. Reaching his doorstep, he paused. He felt lighter, the air around him crackling with possibilities. Maybe he wouldn't just explore the world through stories anymore. Maybe he could become part of them. As he stepped inside, his phone chimed with a text. It was from Ellie. "Can't wait for our hike. By the way, I may have a challenge lined up that might push our limits." Winky face. Arthur paused, heart pounding in anticipation. What challenge could she have in mind? He grinned, curiosity bubbling inside him. Stepping into this new chapter was one thing. Embracing the unexpected had never felt so exhilarating. He took a deep breath, feeling ready, and replied with a simple, "I'm in." The next morning dawned bright and crisp, the sun warming the edges of Arthur's window. He rolled over, blinking away sleep, a sense of anticipation swirling within him. The text from Ellie replayed in his mind like a catchy tune. What challenge did she have in store? It was a new day filled with potential, and he was determined to seize it. After a quick breakfast, he decided to take a stroll around the neighborhood, letting the fresh air fill his lungs. With each step, he thought about the crowd he'd gathered with last night, their laughter, their hopes. It was like stepping out of fog, and he couldn't help but smile at the thought of embarking on that hike. Later that afternoon, Ellie invited him over to discuss their plans. Arthur felt butterflies in his stomach as he approached her doorstep. He had barely known her, yet somehow She was becoming a bright spot in his life. When she opened the door, the two shared a wave of warmth and enthusiasm. "Hey, ready to hear about our challenge?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "Absolutely. What are we doing?" he replied, attempting to match her energy. Ellie motioned for him to sit at her kitchen table, covered with maps, highlighters, and snacks. "We're not just hiking. I found this trail that leads to a hidden waterfall. But there's a catch." She paused for effect. "A catch?" Arthur raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Yes. We need to complete a series of challenges along the way, team-building activities. I thought it would be a good way to bond." She beamed, excitedly pointing at the colorful drawings she had made on the maps. Arthur took a deep breath, feeling a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. "Like what?" he asked, already knowing he was in for a ride. "Stuff like scavenger hunts, trust falls, and even a tiny obstacle course," Ellie explained. "There's also a final challenge to conquer the waterfall together." An unexpected thrill shot through him. It sounded daunting but invigorating at the same time. This was not simply about hiking. It was about connection. "I love it," Arthur exclaimed, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The thought of tackling obstacles with new friends brought back memories of laughter shared with Sarah, each moment a gentle nudge in his heart, urging him to move beyond his grief. They spent the next hour planning logistics and packing essentials. As the afternoon lights softened, Arthur felt a sense of purpose that had been missing for far too long. Working with Ellie ignited a spark of creativity in him. They discovered shared interests, from favorite foods to travel dreams, fueling a burgeoning friendship that felt both exciting and comforting. As they wrapped up their discussion, Ellie grinned, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "And there's one more thing. We need to come up with team names for our crew. Something to rally behind. Any ideas?" Arthur chuckled, his mind racing. It felt like another layer of connection, a chance to be silly and strong together. "How about the Waterfall Warriors?" "I love it," she replied, clapping her hands in delight. "Let us make this whole experience unforgettable." The two shared a moment of laughter, the room pulsing with a newfound energy. Then abruptly, Arthur's phone buzzed with a notification. He glanced at the screen. It was a message from Jim, his fellow volunteer. "Hope you're ready for an unexpected twist on the hike. Bring your A game this weekend." Arthur's heart thudded. What was Jim planning? Excitement coursed through him as his thoughts darted between anticipation and a touch of nervousness. Could he really face the challenges ahead? This was just the beginning. And as he looked back at Ellie, their eyes locking with a shared excitement, he realized that something bigger loomed on the horizon. What would that twist be? The weekend arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze, perfect for adventure. Arthur woke up with an electric thrill crackling through him. This hike wasn't just a hike. It was a leap into the unknown, filled with challenges and opportunities to grow closer to his newfound friends. He met Ellie at the trailhead, her enthusiasm infectious, excitement radiating from her. "Arthur, you made it." She beamed, her backpack bouncing with every step. "Are you ready for the Waterfall Warriors to take on this day?" "Absolutely. Let us see what Jim has in store for us," he replied, feeling lighter with the anticipation of laughter and teamwork. The rest of the group began to arrive, each smiling face adding to the warmth in his heart. As they assembled, Jim emerged, brimming with energy. "All right, Waterfall Warriors, welcome to your first challenge." He handed out colorful bandanas adorned with their newly minted name. "These represent our team spirit. First up, a scavenger hunt. You need to find all these specific items along the trail." Laughter erupted at the sight of the scavenger list, filled with fun requests: find a heart-shaped rock, collect a vibrant leaf, and even take a selfie with a squirrel. The laughter was a sudden rush of color in a week that had felt gray. "Ready, set, go," shouted Jim, and they were off, racing into the woods. Arthur felt joy bubble up as he ran side by side with Ellie, their shared competitiveness igniting a playful spirit within him. They discovered vibrant flowers, quirky sticks, and even managed to snap a quick selfie with an unsuspecting squirrel. Every small victory was met with cheers, a celebration of their newfound bonds over simple treasures found in nature. As they reached the halfway point, they took a break by a gentle stream, laughter and chatter mingling with the sound of flowing water. It was here that Arthur noticed a young couple sitting a little ways off, blissfully engrossed in each other. A pang of bittersweet nostalgia hit him, but before he could dwell on it, Ellie nudged him playfully. "Hey, you're not allowed to zone out. We still have challenges to smash, right?" He laughed, shaking off the wistful moment. As they continued their adventures, Arthur found himself more engaged than ever. He embraced challenges like he never could have imagined before, and his laughter rang out as they tackled trust falls and blindfolded obstacle courses. Each moment shared shattered the remaining barriers he'd kept around his heart. He felt seen, accepted, and above all connected. Vulnerability transformed into strength with each cheer from his friends, each shout of encouragement welding them closer together. Finally, they arrived at the breathtaking waterfall, cascading down rocks with a ferocity that mirrored the excitement coursing through their group. "Here it is, the final challenge," Jim exclaimed, his voice full of flair. "To conquer the waterfall, we need each other. We'll form a human chain to help everyone scale the rocks safely." As they lined up, Arthur felt a tingle of adrenaline. Together, they were a unit, a cohort eager to lift one another. One by one, they helped each other navigate the slippery stones, their laughter echoing against the roaring water. When it was Arthur's turn, the nervousness bubbled in his gut, but quickly transformed into determination. With steady hands gripping those of his teammates, he found strength he didn't know he had. Trusting them, he climbed, feeling the rush of cold spray on his skin. Once atop the rocky surface, he felt invincible. The view from the top was awe-inspiring, a sea of trees stretching endlessly, a vastness he hadn't appreciated in far too long. His heart swelled with gratitude for these people, for the bond they had forged. Looking around, he saw Ellie cheering him on, her joy reflecting his. "We did it," he shouted, and their triumphant cheers filled the air. At that moment, Arthur understood this journey was more than the challenges, the laughter, or even the thrill of the hike. It was about connection, about breaking down walls and allowing light to flow in again. It was about belonging to. As they made their way back down, Arthur felt lighter, renewed in spirit. Conversations flowed freely, and insights blossomed in the gentle light of their friendship. Every story shared linked them more closely, creating a tapestry woven from laughter, tears, and shared determination. Arthur looked all around as they approached the bottom of the trail. The warmth of the sun on his face enveloped him like a gentle hug, a reminder that loneliness had been a shield, but love had always been there. Waiting as they all gathered the trailhead for a final cheer, Arthur raised his voice above the crowd, to the waterfall warriors and the journey ahead. They all echoed back, their voices mingled in joyful harmony. This was just the beginning, a new chapter marked by courage, connection, and the dawning realization that together they could navigate life's unpredictable waters. Stepping away from the trail, Arthur felt aware of the world bursting with potential. The air was infused with hope, and it filled him with eager anticipation of what was still to come. Invite everyone on this journey. And you need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show us you support this community. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring story. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting our journey through these actions.